Welcome to the App Advisory Show, your fortnightly dose of all things cloud accounting, apps, and app advisory.
Hey guys, welcome to session 6 around the ultimate guide to the app advisory. So in this session we'll begin with talking about app advisory delivery processes. So we've got some services, but I just want to go a little bit into the processes. I mean, you can go on forever and a day around processes. So this is a high level view, but just to give you an idea of what we want to be looking at here. So for every service, there needs to be a process. So if you're going to do finance function reviews, what's the process underneath that? So in this aspect, it would be scoping, for example. And I think one of the other points I just want to actually link up, which is on this in this book, is a lot of accounting firms and bookkeepers say, I want all of the app knowledge and then I'll worry about everything. Actually, you want to know what the app solves and the problems that the app solves, but then in order to implement an app, there needs to be a service and a process and understanding of commercialization, and whether the commercialization is going to increase the efficiency of the firm or whether it's going to bring some revenue in. So ultimately, knowledge is good, but it's not the only thing that's needed. So we certainly need processes underneath services. So let's just have a chat here around scoping. So we really need to understand what the clients need when they are going to move their cloud, move their finance function to the cloud, or where they're going to be understanding what their current digital finance function does and what more it needs to do. So we need to think about scoping. And when we're going through scoping, it's an information-based project. It's there not to answer, it's there to find. So a fact find is really important when you're going through this, to understand what they currently have and then ascertain what they need. And out of that scoping, there needs to be essentially a list of requirements. So this is what you need it to do. And also an extra category on those requirements should be mandatory and nice to have. Because when you start talking to clients about what they could have, they get excited. The SME gets excited about what they could have and then starts to talk about all sorts of stuff. And you've got to bring them back to reality and go, okay, so we've now got 20 things that you would like this new world to cover for you. So could we now list again, just to clarify what's mandatory, what's really important, and if I can get the other stuff, that's real bells and whistles and optional nice to haves, as we would call them. So always think about having a set of requirements within your scope, which is mandatory and which are nice to have. Now, far too often I see this service given away. We'll have a discussion, see where you need. Now, what I would really think about within the scoping world is you have a discussion, high level initially, which doesn't go on for hours. It's literally probably half an hour, 40 minutes. And what you're trying to understand is any gotchas in what they're asking for to a high level, and also that you're compatible with them. Are you compatible with the people here? And is your service compatible with what they want? So there should be sort of high level understanding of what they need and check the compatibility between the two parties. And then there should be a low level scoping where you're going to go into exactly what they do in their purchasing and their sales and their approvals and their reporting and whatever else is linked in there, where you go low level. So that's your scoping understood, but it shouldn't be given away for free, that's for sure. The next option you've got once you've scoped and understood, it could be that it's something that where you're going to, now you understand the process, you're going to recommend and refer. So here's some apps and you can go and self-implement, or the apps will implement on your behalf, or whatever you might be. So you've got an option there where you can recommend and refer some softwares. So I've been out to see you, Matt, and we got your list of mandatory requirements, and here's 2 or 3 options, solutions that you could utilize to fulfill those requirements. Okay, that's recommend and refer. People pay for that. You haven't got to do the implementation. The next part is, it could be that actually you implement those. So yes, you can recommend and refer and say you go and self-help, but actually if you'd like this to be managed and we've got expertise in this, we can do an implementation. Then you're into offering implementation services of those types of in those types of systems, okay? And Jo Royal from BHP, she was saying, came one of our courses, we've completed a fair few cloud migrations in the past, and for some of those, I've come away feeling like we undercharged and lost out. We're now confident in charging and delivering a higher price service that works for us and our clients. Because it's really important, I think, that we really state what's involved in an implementation or a migration. And I see when I review people's proposals, it's really vague and we just don't tell them what we're going to be doing. And the other thing that does, if you list and show what you're going to be doing for that prospect or client, they then understand, well, if that's what needs doing and they're not going to do it, how do I do all these tasks? So you really need to spell out what you're going to be doing when you're doing implementation or a migration. Training is a given. We should be thinking about the initial training when we're adopting, but there should be then ongoing refresher training, and we have to be considering that, whether that's apps or the cloud accounting vendors themselves. And support. Essentially, we should have a service level agreement. We should be agreeing what we're supporting. We should have a definition of the priority levels for any tickets that are raised, support queries, what the response times are, what the resolution timeframes are, the support hours, escalation procedures, etc., etc. So support does need to be considered as well. So there's some of the services. I say we can go into processes forever and a day, and there's a lot to it, but there's some high-level key ones that you need to be thinking about. Now, pricing app advisory services, well, really important. Now, we've gone through some rates and some ranges that you could charge. Now, hourly rate in general, I'm not a big fan of, but it does have its place. And the reason it has its place is because it means you can dip your toe in the water a little bit. However, what we do tend to find the risk with going hourly rate is we start writing work off. So we might say, hey, Matt, I think it's be 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to charge 90 quid or £60 an hour or whatever your rate is, 120, 150. And you might do 3 or 4 hours and then you'll look and go, well, the client's not that happy and we're unsure of whether we've got the outcome for the client and I'm not sure they're going to pay it. So I'll just start writing off. We get this bad habit of writing stuff off. So that is why I'm not really up for hourly rate. What I'm much more open to actually is blocks of time. So, hey, Matt, I need to do some research and get you recommendations. I'm going to do 4 hours. So if you've not really got the confidence in fixed time, this is what we're going to charge, this is going to be the outcome, and scope managing, what you can scope is the amount of time. So certainly back in our early days of working with SMEs, we used to do blocks of time, never did hourly rate. And we'd say, right, it's going to be, let's go 4 hours and see what we get. And with that, that allowed us to really set a little bit of a budget. And what it also allowed us to do is to get out if it wasn't working. So if we did 4 hours with somebody, and after half an hour or an hour, we said, look, this is actually going to be 20 hours, hundreds of hours, or we didn't really get the compatibility, or what they told us wasn't really the truth when it came to looking under the hood of the business, we'd say after an hour, look, just let you know, we're not going to go ahead. We'll give you a refund. This isn't the project's going to work for us. So it allowed us to fail early in that scenario. So that's why I'm a bigger fan of blocks of time, but also I think within 4 hours and they get some output and see how you work, they start to value that a little bit more and people can step into it. So not a big fan of hourly rate. Blocks of time, much better if you are just working into this world and it's new to you. Fixed pricing is the way to go because you're really in charge then of your margins and knowing what you should be hitting, and it gives you something to work towards in terms of that profitability and margin you want to hit. But again, to be fair with fixed pricing, I think it's a confidence element, and fixed pricing means you have to really nail the scope. So if you're early to scoping, early to requirement gathering, early to this world in general, then fixed pricing, I think, is when you've got your confidence and you know your outputs for your inputs. So, if you put this much time in, they're going to get this out. And also you'd really tight scope, much more tighter scope creep control. So fixed pricing is great, but essentially I think you really need to be clear on your scoping. And Danielle Summers, one of our accelerator program graduates, previously when we did cloud migrations we charged by the hour. Now they have a cloud migration package bundled in with additional services, we have a clear process for pricing that's a win-win for us and our clients, so they know the outcomes, and that's really useful. Now, question I get here is how much free time should I give away to prospecting and even clients? So ultimately, you should really try and time box this time. So when you're speaking to a client, you should be saying, right, Matt, this is going to be half an hour quick discovery just to see, like, one, if we can help, and two, how we can help. And if we can't, make sure that we can send you somewhere where it's going to be useful. So I think, a half an hour to an hour is absolutely great. I've heard of other firms where these sessions gone on for an hour or two, and it's really clear at the start of the meeting, you say, this is only going to be 45 minutes, and I've got another meeting in an hour, so I've got to go. And you really get them into that we've got to get cracking on this, and this is all they're going to get. And what you say at that point is it's going to be 45 minutes, and then we're going to agree what the next steps are. If we can help you, we'll show you what those next steps look like. But what I would say is it should be a considered approach, in all honesty, when you are looking about how much time. So if it's a really big client and it's not the only service you're looking to do, of course you can give a little bit of extra time. If it's a really big potential client for you, of course you can give a little bit of time. But it needs to be considered, and it shouldn't just be that everything follows that way, because I think you do need to put these SMEs, clients, prospects into a structure and a process that you control, and ultimately you don't want them controlling the process. So you should be dictating, this is what we're going to spend some time on, this is the reason why, and at that point this is what the next steps are, and then you are guiding them through your process. Okay, we'll leave that session at that, and I will pick up with you on the next one. Cheers guys, see you soon.